and welcome to Behind the Mic. My name is Chad Graves, and I'm here with another very special guest, Miss Lynesa Bell. And I'm sorry, I've heard people say your name a little bit differently through the years.
You can thank my parents.
All right, so tonight we're visiting with Lynesa Bell, chairman of the Warren County Republican Party. We're going to talk about local events, upcoming races, and how folks here in Warren County can get involved.
Sure.
But before we get into that, I've got to say that I've watched your daughter, Emmeline, play softball, and every time she would get up to bat, I would think, they just need to walk her because she is going to knock one to the fence every time she got up there to play.
Her goal before this last season was her last season to play at Midway. She's been there since she was 4, and her goal was to knock it over the fence. She didn't quite meet her goal. Came really close. We had to bounce over several times, but yeah, she's.
Well, I will say that she was as good as any player that I've ever seen out there at Midway. She was really, really good.
That's all her dad, by the way. I'm not athletically inclined at all. Not at all.
Well, if one was ever hit in the air towards her, I'm like, well, that's an out because. Yeah. And I don't know if you know, but catching one of those fly balls that are deep in the outfield like that is not exactly easy to do.
No.
But she made it look easy.
She had a lot of practice at home with her dad.
Well, she was really, really good.
Thank you.
She was very fun to watch. All right, so let's just jump into it. So last year's Reagan Day banquet was held at the Magnolia event venue instead of the high school like usual.
Yeah.
And it was a very nice event. So what led to moving it to the Magnolia?
So in years past, we had it at the high school, but the acoustics in the gymnasium at the high school were always so hard for people to understand, the speakers. So we were, essentially the board and I were looking for a venue that would be better suited for a speaker, for people to be able to hear. If you're going to an event like that and you're paying to hear somebody speak, you want to hear somebody speak. So that was the reason we decided to look elsewhere. And it did cost the party, a little bit more money. The gym is, relatively inexpensive,
right,
for an event like that. But I felt like overall it went very well. I was very pleased with, the venue, the food, the setup, the whole thing. It was just a really, really great night.
Well, so did that give the event a different feel than it had?
Sure, absolutely. So in the past, we had used the Culinary Arts program from the Warren County High School, which we are huge fans of. They do a great job. But because the Magnolia Event Center is owned by the same people who own La Casona, they were able to get us a deal on catering because we were using their event center. And so we were able to do a fajita bar, which was a welcome change to a lot of, these Reagan Day, what they call it Reagan Day season, which basically starts in April and goes through, the end of August for all the local parties in Tennessee to throw their fundraiser. And you see a lot of the same stuff, your pulled pork barbecue, your chicken, whatever. Mm-hmm. But for there to be an all-you-can-eat fajita bar, the people really enjoyed that. So it gave it a different feel, certainly, with round tables and linens instead of rectangle tables and plastic tablecloths. We were able to, take the event, up a scale, and so to speak.
So what was the turnout like?
So my goal was 200 in an off year for election cycle for Warren County. That was a pretty lofty goal. We actually that night hit right at 200. I think we were at 204 or 5. So I was thrilled that we were able to have that many people come out when it wasn't really even an election year. Mm-hmm. Election years, obviously, we have a bigger turnout. But that was the goal, and we met it, exceeded it just a little bit. So I was thrilled.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I wasn't able to attend. I think we were out of town,
Yep.
but that was I've heard good things about the event, and it seemed like it went really well. You had some good speakers there.
We sure did. We had John Rose, which is a candidate for governor. He was our keynote, but we also had Monty Fritz, who is also a Republican candidate for governor for the primary. He was there. We had Colton McAbee, who was a January 6th prisoner, pardoned prisoner by President Trump. He was one of our speakers. We had Dr. Omar Hamada, who brought the House down. He was phenomenal. Really focusing on, the why behind what we do, why we do what we do. And at the end of the day, for the majority of the people in that room, it's about preserving our American culture, our religious liberties, our heritage, being able to, still be the melting pot that our founding fathers wanted us to be, but also, preserve that the freedoms that we have through our U.S. Constitution.
Are you planning something similar this year?
We are. As a matter of fact, our Reagan Day this year is going to be in May. It's going to be Friday, May 1st, so May Day. It will also be held at the Magnolia Event Center. The program is going to start at 6. Doors will open at 5. We found that people really like that first hour to mix and mingle and chat and hang out. Not hour. 5:30, 30 minutes. We're giving people 30,
right, 30 minutes.
30
yes.
minutes, yeah, sorry. And then we're going to do the same thing, fajita bar. This time we're shooting for around 300 because we are in an election cycle. Obviously, we've got the governor's election. Their primary is going to be in August. Countywide elections, we've got a lot of county candidates that are going to be there to participate. So we feel like we're going to be able to draw, a bigger crowd. Right now, tentatively, we have the 3 candidates for governor to speak. We will give them all the same amount of time. As a party, we're not going to show in a primary. We can't show preference to one candidate over another. But we do have some feelers out for a keynote speaker and some folks. I'll just go ahead and some folks that we have approached is Senator Bill Hagerty, State Rep Tim Burchett out of Knox County. We've contacted his people, and there's a few other bigger names that we hope to get, but it's one of those things you just gotta wait and see who's available.
Right. Understood. Well, it sounds like it could be a really fun event.
Yeah, I think so. I really think so.
So, can you tell us about Bologna Day?
I am not a Bologna Day aficionado. As a matter of fact, I have never been to Bologna Day. I am going for the first time this year. I actually am taking my teenagers. We homeschool, so they're going to take a field trip with their mom. I'm so excited about that. I do know that it was started by, I believe, it was. Oh gosh, I'm gonna be wrecked over the coals. I don't remember who was a local business owner years ago who started Bologna Day at the Capitol to meet with the state senators and representatives to get Warren County in contact with these folks, and it's just been a time-honored tradition. I know that last year we wanted to attend and we had some sickness in the family, so we weren't able to go. But this year we're hoping to make it. I know the Young Republicans are from the Warren County High School, and the Young Democrats are both planning on taking a field trip that day to participate in Bologna Day. So I hope that we're going to have a great turnout from Warren County.
Yeah, that's great because I know that's specific to Warren County.
It is. It is
Yes,
specific
it
to
is.
Warren County. Absolutely.
Well,
other counties participate, but it is Warren County's. It's our gig.
Yeah, Bologna Day is inherently ours.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, so I guess I wanted to kind of talk about your role as the chairman of the local Republican Party.
Okay.
So I guess for folks who don't really follow politics closely, what does the county Republican chairman actually do?
So my main job is to organize the party. So organize meetings, events, with the help of the board. We have chair, vice chair, secretary, treasurer, vice treasurer, and we have 2 auxiliaries, Young Republicans and Warren County Republican Women. So we as a team work together to facilitate meetings, events. Basically, what we are here to do is to promote Republicans and to support Republican candidates, and also to serve as a kind of go-between between the local candidates and the state party to answer questions that they may have based off of their, what their qualifications are, or can they run as a Republican, that type of thing, their finances, those types of things. We can help with that, and essentially just foster an environment where Republicans can come together and meet other Republicans and build community and work together for what the vision that we have for Warren County.
So, all right. So Connor's telling me it's time for our first break. So when we come back, I want to find out a little bit more about your meetings and who can come and kind of what goes on at these meetings. All right. So you are listening to Behind the Mic. I'm Chad Graves, and I'm sitting down with Lynesa Bell, the chairman of the Republican Party, and we will be right back.
Entirely too much work and never enough play.
Welcome back to Behind the Mic. I am Chad Graves, and we are sitting down with the Republican Party chair, the local Republican Party chair, Lynesa Bell. So before the break, we were talking about what you did or what you do as the chairman of the local Republican Party, and I guess who helps you run the local party.
So that would be my excellent and phenomenal board. I could not do what I do without their help. So we have Vice Chair Brian Carr. We have our Secretary, Miss Marilyn Martin. We have our Treasurer, Miss Lori Dotson, and our Vice Treasurer, Miss Jean Ware. Those are the 5 officers. And the way the Republican Party works, the officers and then the presidents of any auxiliaries are those board members that have the ability to vote. The others are considered at-large members. They're given their ideas and input. So those are our 5 officers. We also have Mr. Brandon Stegg as our Young Republican president, and then Miss Stacey Hart is our Republican Women's Group leader, president, I think is what they call her as well. And then our at-large members are Philip Stout, Stacey Harvey, Chuck Katafu, and Scott Horton. Sorry, I just went blank. Mr. Scott Horton, yes.
All right. So, yeah, it sounds like there are quite a few people that are involved in this Republican Party.
Yeah, and they're excellent. They're all excellent help.
Excellent. That's great. So, I guess how often do you meet?
So our board meets once a month, and then our party also meets once a month. Our party meetings are the 3rd Thursday of every month. Generally, we meet in the early voting room of the Warren County Admin Building at 6 o'clock on the 3rd Thursday of the month. The only times that we can't meet in there is obviously when early voting is going on. Mm-hmm. So we do have, like, for example, our April party meeting is going to be at the Farmers Market Pavilion. And we're going to do, the party's going to provide hot dogs, and soda, and we're just going to have a good time out there. Hopefully, most of our candidates will be able to attend, and we're inviting the community out to just like a meet and greet to come get to know the candidates.
All right. That sounds like a fun time.
Yeah.
So can anyone come to these meetings?
Anybody can come to these meetings. There is no process or way right now in our bylaws for us to have party members. Basically, your participation is your membership. The more that you show up and the more that you're involved, the more say you're going to have in what we have going on.
Okay. So, and I guess that's just something that I've never fully understood, and I guess I'm just not real well educated on the topic. It's like, because I know that some people are, what is a bona fide Republican,
Sure.
and what is it's like, do you have a card, that you keep in your wallet?
Yeah.
How does that work?
So the term bona fide refers to a person's voting record. So according to the state Republican Party, a bona fide Republican is anybody who has voted in 3 out of the last 4 state or federal primaries. That does not include local primaries, and that's where a lot of people kind of get hung up because they can look at their voting record and see, 3 or 4 R's, but it does not. So the May primary that's for the county, that is not included in that head count that the state looks at. So it's only state or federal primaries. And so that's what's considered a bona fide Republican. The benefit of being a bona fide Republican is that you can run for office as a Republican. That is the criteria. And then also you can vote in our reorganization. The party reorganizes, elects new officers, is what that is, every 2 years. So the odd years. So 25, we'll do it 27, 29. And so if only bona fide Republicans can vote in that reorganization to elect new officers. Now, there is no card. There is no, when people say, I'm a card-carrying member of the Republican Party, I have to pump the brakes for them and say, listen, nobody's got a card. I'm the chair, and I don't even have a card. So that refers more to states that have closed primaries where you have to register when you go to vote. When you go to register to vote, you have to register as a Republican, as a Democrat. If you register as neither, then you can't vote in primaries at all. You just have to vote in general elections.
Okay. So whenever you run in an election as a Republican,
Sure.
So I was always under the impression that, if you identify as a Republican, then you can just go and pull papers and run as a Republican or a Democrat or whatever you want.
Right.
So I guess maybe not this time, but maybe it's always been this way. But I know that some people that are Republicans didn't actually get to run as a Republican this time.
Right. So that has the state GOP has their rules and their bylaws. Now, I don't know who you might be thinking of because everybody that we had that didn't meet necessarily the bona fide voting record, what they do is they take those people and they go into the adjudication process where the state party chairman and then our state executive committee members look at their voting record, actually call me and ask me, do I know this person? Are they really a conservative? Is it somebody that's just trying to sneak in under an R to get elected? So everybody that was up for adjudication in Warren County actually received their R.
Okay.
So nobody was denied their waiver to run as a Republican. Now, I will say in other counties that's not the case. And a lot of it largely depends on the race that's actually being ran, if there are already bona fide Republicans running that race, and if the party chairman has, some input, because our state chairman really relies heavily on the local party chairman's opinion because, obviously the state party chairman's not going to know the ins and outs of 95 counties, every county commission seat and school board seat and, all of that. So he relies heavily on the input of the party chairman. And I was confident that of the handful that we had, I knew all of them, and I was confident that, they would uphold conservative values.
So are those considered bona fide now?
They're how did he word it? Provisional. They're provisionals.
Okay.
Provisional candidates. So, but what I've encouraged all of those candidates to do is to vote in the primaries, so you don't have to go through this again.
Right.
All
right. So again, you've educated me on something.
Yeah.
I did not understand how this whole process worked because I've just never run for anything.
Sure.
So that's pretty interesting how that has worked out because I read a story about someone in Crossville that is not able to run as a Republican because that's what they were trying to do is go through this adjudication process.
Yeah, it happens. We actually have I know of a man that is running for, of course, Warren County. The majority of Warren County, our congressman is Scott Desjardins, but there's a tiny little sliver of Rock Island who their congressman currently is John Rose. And because John Rose is running for governor, that his seat's going to be open. And there's I think right now 5, Republicans running for that seat for primary. There was a man by the name of Dale Braden that was seeking the nomination for that, and because he didn't have that voting record, because there were already 5 people that did, the state didn't, they did not allow him to run, even though he's very conservative. He's very, he identifies as a Republican. He's running as an independent now.
So, but there was already, I guess, enough bona fide Republicans running that they couldn't say, well, sorry, sorry, you didn't meet the qualifications. So I kind of understand that.
Right. Yeah.
That situation.
Right.
So what's been the most rewarding part of serving as the chair?
Wow. So to answer that question, I'll have to go back a little ways. I've always been a lover of American history, right? Like I had Dr. Greer for AP history in high school, and I absolutely hung on his every word. I loved that class. I had some great instructors when I went to Tech for history. Absolutely loved it. Government was, though, for me, a lot of it I didn't understand. I mean, I got the three branches and I got the process. We all watched, Schoolhouse Rock, and I know how a bill becomes a law. I
know. That's all that I know
right,
about
right.
government.
But past that, I didn't really have a good grasp on how legislation actually came to pass, or really even what our local legislative body could and couldn't do. Right, I didn't understand all of that. Well, enter COVID in 2020. And so we were being told you have to wear a mask. And I'm like, but do we? Do we have to? Like, it's a recommendation I get, and if that's their choice, then absolutely. But do I have to? So there was a lot of I felt like that was like my great awakening as far as government overreach and, government being able to do things that they should have done during that time that they didn't to help protect the people. So, when all of that was going on, I was actually, and it's no secret, I'm a faith-filled, Spirit-filled believer. I love the Lord, and I was praying one day, and I was like, this is not the America I want my kids growing up in. And, I just felt on the inside of me, then what are you going to do about it? Mm-hmm. And so I got involved locally at that time just with the women's group. A lady by the name of Mindy Stotts was starting a small group of mamas that were wanting to get together and do things to see that their children's freedoms were protected. So that's how I got started. And from that, it just snowballed. And it's kind of like pretty much any nonprofit organization or volunteer group. If you're willing to help, then you rise to the top really quick, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what happened with me. What I can say the most rewarding aspect of it is to know that, I might not be changing the world, but I am making a difference in Warren County, mm-hmm. and I'm making a difference for my kids' futures so that if they choose to stay here, if they choose to live here for their, the foreseeable future, they don't move off somewhere else, that they know that, this is a place where people are going to fight for their freedoms, for their constitutional rights, and be able to elect people that will do that. So
Blaine Wiltshire was on the show.
He's one of my I'm in his district. He's one of my commissioners.
Yeah, well, he was on the show earlier, and he says that he was the first Republican ever elected. And he said that they went back and searched, or here in Warren County anyway, because it just feels like, before it was very recent where there was a big change where, it used to be very much Democrat and now it is Republican.
Right.
So can you validate his claim?
I cannot confirm nor deny that claim.
That's what he says. He says he was the very first one here in Warren County that was elected. And that was, I think he said 2008 or something, which seems like surely there was another Republican elected at some point. But
I couldn't validate that. I didn't get involved, like I said, until 2020, and I've not gone back and done the research on that. I do know that Mr. Ron Lee, who's also a county commissioner in District 1, has told me that his sister was county executive for a term as a Republican. Now, I don't know when that was, though. I don't know if that was before Blaine's time or during Blaine's time. I'm not sure. But I can't confirm or deny. I'll have to go back and that's a Susie Davenport question.
All right, you know what? Actually, that is a good question for Miss Susie.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on another break. So when we come back, I want to get into a topic. Now, there's a word that I've heard in the news recently called caucus. So I want to understand what that is because, again, I'm not very well educated on this topic. So you're listening to Behind the Mic, and we are sitting down with the Republican Party Chair, Lynesa Bell, and we will be right back.
Stones away from him, he recognized me on the first day I came in.
Welcome back to Behind the Mic. I am Chad Graves, and I am sitting down with the Republican Party Chair, Lynesa Bell. And we have talked a little bit about a lot of different things tonight, about your role as the chair, about whenever you guys meet. But there is a word out in the media right now, a caucus. And I don't really understand the difference, what a caucus and a primary. I don't fully understand that. Can you explain in simple terms what this is?
Sure, I'll do my best. Because even as chair, it's a little confusing for me still. So the state Republican Party, in their bylaws, gives the counties two options to pick their nominee for a candidate for the office of whatever, right? Whether it's commission, county executive, sheriff, whatever. The two options are primary or a caucus. Now, in the state of Tennessee, primaries are open, which means that anybody can go and vote in any primary in their county. So, for example, let's say Chad Graves is running for dog catcher. We use that a lot because we don't elect a dog catcher, so it's a safe office. So let's say Chad Graves is running for dog catcher, and whoever, Mr. Smith is also running for dog catcher. You're both Republican. The way a primary works is no matter how I affiliate party wise, or if I affiliate at all, I can go and vote in that Republican primary. I can go, to my polling place. Or to early voting, and they ask you, which primary are you choosing to vote in, and you say Republican, and then you go push the button for whichever guy you want to be dog catcher.
No one checks any cards. No one checks anything.
No.
Right?
They obviously check your voter registration and your photo ID
right.
for that, for all of that, but no, they don't make sure that you are a bona fide Republican or whatever. The opposite of that is a caucus, where you are checked heavily in a caucus. A caucus, the way it works is it uses delegates to select a Republican candidate. So let's just use that same example. Like Chad Graves and Joe Smith are running for dog catcher, and the party has decided to caucus for that position. What that means is on a single day, to be determined by the party, we would all meet in one location. The state GOP would send their representatives down. Everybody would register. They give you a link. You could register online prior to a caucus, which is highly encouraged to keep time, the time frame from lasting all day. But people would register to vote, not register to vote as in you go to the Warren County Election Commission to register to vote, but they would register with the party to vote in the caucus. And the way that they could vote in the caucus is the same way that we talked about earlier, the bona fide candidate. It's the 3 out of 4 last state or federal Republican primary. So basically, the state GOP looks at your voting record and they say, yes, you've met the voting requirements to vote in this caucus. You're allowed to participate, to vote. They would give you like an armband or a sticker or something that would mark you as a voter for that event, or a potential delegate. We're not voting yet, a potential delegate. And then delegates, the number of delegates chosen is based off of 10% of the last presidential election voters for the Republican candidate. So, for example, right now in 24, Warren County had a huge turnout for the presidential election. So 10% would be 131 delegates that could be chosen, up to 131. We couldn't go over. And so once delegates were chosen, then we would reconvene the next week. So the delegates would go home, and in that week's time, Chad Graves and Joe Smith, who are running for dog catcher, would contact these delegates, trying to sway them to vote for them in the caucus. Then we would meet the next week or another time stretched, whatever the time frame is, and the delegates would come into a room and they would choose their candidate. And I'm going based off of if there's only 2 candidates. If there's 3 or more, it gets even hairier as far as so let's say there's 3 candidates, or let's say there's 4 candidates, and no one has 50 plus 1%, right, of the vote. Well, then whoever got the least votes is out, and the other 3 have to convince whoever voted for the last guy to come vote for them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So ish, right?
Yeah.
So a caucus is something that a lot of people, a lot of voters want to stay away from because it has the essence of, well, for example, the party reorganization works much like a caucus. You have to be bona fide to be able to vote. I mentioned that earlier, to vote in the party reorganization. So I have a very conservative family, but my own father was not able to vote for his own daughter in this party reorganization because his voting record didn't meet the qualifications set out by the state. Same for my 22-year-old son. He couldn't vote for his own mom in the reorganization, even though he is very conservative. So it makes a lot of people who identify as Republicans, who feel like they support the Republican Party, especially in general elections, and who are very conservative, it makes them feel disenfranchised, like they don't have a voice. And I understand that. I get that. But in some cases, and the specific case that we're going to get to, I'm sure, in just a minute, is that would technically be the only way to determine a Republican candidate.
Okay, so when would you use a caucus instead of a primary?
So the legislation that passed last year stated that if a county party chose to not use a caucus in their selection process, in their nomination process, if they chose not to use the caucus process for any of the offices for 2026, then they would there be forfeiting their right to use a caucus ever again. Okay. When I was running for party chair, ensured my party members that I would let them decide how they wanted to choose their nominees, whether it was a call to primary or a call to caucus. So when we received the letter from the Warren County Election Commission in July stating that, we need to know how you want to proceed with your nomination process, I put it to a vote before the entire party. The party voted unanimously that they did not want a caucus, that they wanted only a primary for every seat coming up in the 26th election. So we submitted that letter. Well, in this legislative session, there has been a new amendment added to that law that says nobody can caucus unless there is a special election for a judicial district, which, as you know, we have a special election this year for a judicial district. When Chris Stanford stepped down on October 31st, that opened that up to an election in August of 26. And so because we had already sent in the letter to the Warren County Election Commission saying we're going to hold primaries, but the DA's office was not part of that letter, therefore we could not hold primary for DA. But now with this new rule, we could potentially hold a caucus to select a Republican candidate for DA for this special election, that this election would be in August.
Okay, so was this a recent amendment?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I spoke with the chairman today, Scott Golden, the state party chair. I'm not even sure, based off of his communication with me, if it's actually been signed by the governor yet. I do know that it did pass in both the House and the Senate. But I don't know that if the amendment is actually part of the law just yet. It's slated to be.
Right. It's almost certain, but still not certain.
Sure.
Right. So this is it seems like maybe it was a special amendment for a specific circumstance, but it makes sense. And is it just for a judicial?
It's for judicial districts only. So just for judicial positions, your judges, your DAs, think the judicial positions that are elected by the people. Some are appointed, but just the ones that are elected by the people. There are several counties. Warren County is not the only one that's in this this situation.
Okay.
There are several counties in Tennessee right now that are looking at this amendment and trying to determine how they're going to proceed.
All right. Well, that's interesting. So if
Yeah.
it's just for judicial districts and it's only for special elections, I would say that there are a limited number of those.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So, all right. Connor comes in at the right time with music for a break, but so we do want to get into the actual our special election that is coming up because of Chris Tanford stepping down as the DA. So, but when we come back, we're gonna get into that a little bit deeper and find out exactly what's going to happen here, or maybe we might not know exactly what's going to happen, but we'll get into some details of it.
Sure.
All right, you're listening to Behind the Mic. I'm Chad Graves, and we'll be right back with Lynesa Bell.
I was born, 6 gun in my hand, behind a gun. Well, you make me wanna shout and kick my heels up and down.
Welcome back to Behind the Mic. I'm Chad Graves, sitting down with Republican Party Chair Lynesa Bell. And before the break, we hinted about this upcoming judicial special election and how there's an amendment to a rule where we could hold a caucus for a judicial district. So it kind of felt like they made this amendment maybe specifically for Warren County, but you were explaining to me that it's not.
No, yeah. So I talked with our state party chair earlier today, and there's several other. Well, I say several. I think we're one of 4 counties that are holding a special election in 26 for a judicial seat. Yeah.
Okay. So and it could be for all different kinds of reasons.
Sure. Yeah. Somebody's passed away. Somebody took a job in D.C. Somebody stepped down for family reasons or whatever. Yeah.
All right. So there's been talk about the district attorney race and how the Republican candidate's going to be might be selected. So we might have a caucus for the Republican candidate for the district attorney seat.
It's a possibility. The timeline is extremely tight because the filing deadline for that office is March 10th, which would mean that not this Saturday, but next we would have to select delegates, and then March 7th we would have to have a vote. And it's not just Warren County. Van Buren County is part of this district too. So Van Buren would also have to be willing to participate and make this happen for us to have a Republican candidate on the ballot in August of 26. But a caveat to all of this is the candidates would also have to be willing.
Okay.
They would. It's not just up to the party to decide how we're going to choose a candidate. Your candidates right now. So right now that I know of, there are 3 potential candidates for this race, and the way that they were moving forward with that was everybody was going to run as an independent. This new rule has potentially thrown some shadow on that, where we as the party could potentially, I keep saying potentially because, like I said, if you don't have candidates who want to go through the caucus process, then you don't have a caucus.
Right.
So it's something that we would have to think about long and hard, and the board would have to seriously weigh the implications of, like I said earlier, the party voting in July, that they absolutely did not want a caucus of any type for any seat. It would be, I feel like it would be going against principle to a certain point, to say, okay, well, we're in a special election, and this is a special thing, so we're going to go against what the party actually wanted in July because we have this special thing happening. But on the flip side of that, we would end up with a Republican nominee.
Right.
There would be an R next to somebody's name in the voting booth, which,
in recent voting records,
it would be,
if you have an R beside your name,
it indicates that it would almost ensure success.
Yes, that's right. So that seems like a
catch-22.
Yeah, it is somewhat of a catch-22.
Yeah.
So I do understand that.
And I'm just the messenger. I'm in no way promoting one over the other. I'm just answering your questions.
Well, it is a very, very interesting thing here.
Yeah.
So it could almost ensure a victory for someone, whoever wins this caucus process.
If we
went down that road.
Right.
So, and like you said, the maximum would be 10% of the bona fide Republicans that would come out and do this, right?
Right.
So whoever is the best at rallying their people,
right,
to come to
they're bona fide people.
Yes, they're bona fide people would end up being the likely
nominee.
Yeah,
the Republican nominee for DA in August of 26. Yeah,
that is a very, very interesting thing, and it could turn out something that I want to watch closely anyway.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty. I wouldn't say fun, but it's certainly
interesting.
It is very, very interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So on another note, tell us about the Women's Republican group.
Sure. So the Warren County Republican women, they are phenomenal. When I say they are the backbone of our party, I'm not over-exaggerating. These ladies work diligently year-round to keep the party informed. So they actually, I love the way that they've structured their group. They have people that attend school board meetings. They have people that attend county commission meetings, committee meetings within the county commission, so that they can bring back to their group what's going on, things that we might want to kind of be aware of coming down the pipelines, so that we can contact our commissioners or we can reach out to our school board members, and they really just stay on top of things in that way. But they also are phenomenal at organizing events. So I know they have a candidate meet and greet coming up. They have a Women's Day celebration coming up on March 6th, which that is an RSVP event. If you're interested in that, you would need to go onto their Facebook page and get that information, so that they can include women, and it's just women for that one event is just women because it's celebrating women. But if you're interested in participating in that, they are taking RSVPs for that. It's March 6th at Collins River.
Okay.
I think at 6:00. But they, candidate meet and greets. They will make phone calls, mailers, whatever the candidates need. They're pretty much like their own little campaign team built into the party to help get candidates elected.
All right, that actually sounds like they are, a good support.
Absolutely,
group,
they are
as
absolutely
needed. Are you seeing more women get involved?
Sure I am. We election cycle, we always tend to up our numbers significantly. But now these women have, what I love to see is they're reaching out to transplants, as I call them. So a lot of these ladies are from out of state, and have moved here. And that's what we're seeing. A lot of these ladies getting involved that have moved here from California or Chicago or wherever.
All right. Last thing I wanted to mention is, tell me about this YouTube channel.
Okay. So my husband, I call him Farmer Bell. That's what I call him, as a term of endearment. Jeremy Bell has started his own YouTube channel called Farmly First instead of Family. Farmly First, the number 1 ST. On YouTube. And basically, it's just him enjoying the farm, doing the chores, working on equipment. He's got a sawmill shed where he mills lumber. My kiddos are on there with him, completing farm activities and chores and tasks, and just a lot of fun. He's just having fun with it, and we would love for people to like and subscribe, as they say. Click that notification bell. All of that. So if you look him up on YouTube, Farmly First, and you can watch him doing all kinds of fun stuff. He's going to be loading cows today on the channel. So
I definitely will. I know that editing video takes a lot of effort. So
yeah.
I know that if he wants it to be successful, and I know that he does,
Sure.
it takes a lot of time to do
it sure
that.
does. Yeah.
All right. So sorry that we have to leave because I could talk for a long time, but I appreciate you very much coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
And telling us all about the Republican Party and your duties as chair. You've been listening to Behind the Mic. I'm Chad Graves, sitting down with Lynesa Bell from the Republican Party. We'll see you next week.